what is the exam like in medical school? Is it very different from traditional exam where you go through in schools?
Yeah, it's such a big jump. Like, you know, A-levels, I thought it's hard. Yeah, you have to revise and everything. But university is, I think any university course, right? You know, when you sit the exams, I'm sure people who are in university right now would agree to this. You guys, like, I'm sure you guys are like, oh my goodness, no one prepared us for that. You know, this is A-levels right here. And then university is just boom, suddenly you have to perform at such a high level and everyone's just shocked kind of, you know, because it's a different level of, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know, the difficulty like of it.
Is it like a 5 hour thing? Is it a 3 hours thing? Is it, you have to dissect people? How does it work?
In the exams? Well, for my university, particularly the first 2 or 3 years were purely basic sciences. So it was a lot of memorizing and understanding like physiology, anatomy, you know, chemistry, all these very detailed things that you need to know, like in much more detail than you would ever study in A-levels, you know, biology, chemistry, physics, and all that.
So you have to memorize facts.
Yeah, you have to.
You can't make up things like we're doing in the business world.
No. No. And you also, I don't know how it's changed now. I think it's changing as well. Like, because I remember after I've left, and people were showing me their kind of exam courseworks, etc., in their various universities for medical school. It was a bit different to, you know, when I was doing it. There's a lot more problem-based kind of learning at the moment than we did before. Although we also had kind of problem-based learning, it was just kind of being added into our curriculum and syllabus at that time. But which I think is so much better. Because it teaches you how to be more, how to look for your facts accurately. Yeah, solving problems. So you have to look for your answers yourself, which is great. Like, you know, it teaches you independent learning. Because, you know, in high school, in you know, college or sixth form, whatever, I felt like the education system didn't really prepare us for university that much, because in university you're expected to be independent and ready. Whereas in A-levels, it was mostly like kind of given to you, like, okay, this is your book. You have to memorize this whole book. If you do, then you can score an A-star. You know, that kind of thing. During my time, I don't know, I'm sure it's changed already now. I mean, that was like years and years ago.
So would it be fair to say that, Dr. Fee, if I'm good at memorizing, I'll stand zero chance to pass?
No, not true.
Well, you were talking about, what you were saying just now was, you know, it's factual, and you really you need to remember factual stuff. So if I can't remember, if I can't memorize, there's no chance of me passing.
I don't know if that's true, you know, because I didn't have to memorize everything. Some of it were kind of based on your understanding as well, because not a lot of facts. I mean, yeah, some facts you need to memorize because they're just like, you know, let's say numbers, like how many % of this is this. But most of them you can actually try to comprehend before you naturally memorize it or remember it anyway.
And you have to understand that you have very different IQ than most of us here.
No, so that's not true.
It's very unfair to compare.
Okay, I like this exam failure one.
Okay.
Okay, because you felt if you did, how did you overcome these challenges? What's your advice? Year 2. Okay, so all right. I think it'll be this one, maybe, Shaun. What do you think about failure?
So, Wafa Hamza?
There's a few, right, on failure. I think there's a few questions.
Yes.
How do you cope with failure? And then there's another one here as well about their A-levels. How have you ever felt like giving up when you were in your A-levels due to some failures? How did you overcome that? Okay.
Okay,
cool.
Go for it. Failure.
So I think failure in general, maybe, like that's easier. Like failures, like how do you overcome that? I remember a time when I was in year 2 medical school, And as I said, the ramp up from A levels to university is huge. So this is a reality check for everyone. So, you need to learn how to learn. That's the most important thing that I learned.
Okay.
So yeah, you need to learn because that's really important. So what I realized was that, I failed really because I wasn't paying attention in school. I was messing around, new country. I was independent, etc. It's fun, So I failed because I didn't work hard at all. And imagine this is the world where everyone's smart and some of them work really hard and you're just kind of not at all. So I failed badly. I mean, what did I expect, right, going to the exam? So then what happened was I failed so badly that the dean had to call me in for a meeting. It was so bad. And then I remember her sitting there, and then she said, look, you failed really badly. You're not going to be able to make the resets because there's resets in 3 months' time. And the resets are usually harder than the real exams. And then she said, so I think why don't you just retake the whole year and repeat the exam next year? And that's when I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I said, I haven't told my parents. I can't tell my parents. They'll be so sad. Like everyone will be disappointed. Because let me tell you a little background. I was at that time the first person in my whole family to have ever been sent abroad, firstly, and secondly, to be furthering their studies at that level. Because as I said, I don't come from a rich family. I come from, a kind of a humble background where, a lot of my relatives didn't even finish university. So I didn't want to disappoint anyone in my family. And I thought, no, I can't give up right now. So then I went home and I had to reevaluate everything. And, remembering my purpose brought me back to life. That was so important. Remembering why I was there. I was there because I wanted to help people. I really wanted to be a doctor, and I really wanted to make my family proud as the first person in my whole family to have ever, gone abroad and, is in university. And that helped me a lot. So I put my head down and I really studied really, really hard. I didn't stop for the next 3 months. And during the exam, I sat it, I felt confident, and then, results came and whoa, I passed. And it was so momentous for me. And it was so impressive that the dean called me back in again to say, I cannot believe you made it. She was like, no one has ever made it from 14% to your 70% passing score, because our passing rate was like 60 or something. So I think that just shows, with enough determination and the rest, you can overcome any failure or obstacle. Yeah.
Did that change your attitude towards doing your homework ever since?
Yes, absolutely. Then I realized, okay, I need to have my head in this game. I can't play around anymore.
So that 3 months must have been crazy for you.
Yeah, I was really mad. Can you imagine I had to catch up on 2 years worth of medical school in order to pass that? And remember, as I said, the resets a lot harder than the actual exam. So yeah, that was epic.
You must
I'll
have
never forget
super brain. Well done.
No, I mean, as I said, working hard, right? Like, it all boils down to that, like, being consistent every single day, doing that, whatever needs to be done in order to get it.
So what's the moral of the story here? Not giving up, or
the moral of the story, make sure you have that purpose to reignite you whenever times are hard. I think that's the most important thing.
And to me, the moral of the story is not everyone is like Dr. Fee, so don't ever try that.
No, Shaun, don't say that to them.
Hey, Dr. Fee, there's one really good question, so I must ask on behalf before I get on with the conversation with you. It's from Anne Law,
cool.
from the UK, actually.
Okay. Yep.
It says that, could I add some advice for future medics? Many students are pressured towards medicine by their parents for the prestige of the profession. I would strongly advise all students to work in the shadow of a medic and spend time with doctors to get a feel for the profession. It's not like it is in ER or Grey's Anatomy. The reality is far away from the glamorous image. Is that true?
That is absolutely true. That is
see the reality true. And make decisions. So the question is, what is the difference between what you see on Grey's Anatomy and real life? I mean, you play music. Do you wear those funky croc kind of clogs? You know, the shoes that you sleep on?
No.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, I do for surgery, yes, but I don't walk around with them. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Anne. You have to, not experience, but spend time with the doctors that you want to kind of aspire to become. So meaning, like, let's say you want to do ophthalmology, spend time with an ophthalmologist. If you want to do medicine or be a hospital doctor, spend time with the hospital doctors, so you can see what the life is about and ask them questions like, what was it really hard, what was your worst moment, what was your best moment, and how did you get through all that? Because as she rightly says, it's nowhere near like the TV shows, of course.
So under normal circumstances, I know we're living in special time right now, which is COVID. But under normal circumstances, non-medic students, let's say high school students, are they allowed to visit hospitals and talk to doctors for this kind of experience?
If you want, accompany your relatives and ask them, if they seem nice enough for you to talk to, or if you know someone who's already a doctor, ask them to hook you up with, their friends who are other doctors in other fields, or you can do it officially through
writing
in to ask for an elective or some sort of, experiential thing for like a couple of weeks or whatever in any department. Yeah, obviously you can.
Or here's the tips for everyone, right? You can go to You Can Lead BN.
Okay. You can lead bn.com, people.
Yes, You Can Lead BN on Instagram. And,
yes.
They have a friendly, beautiful doctor who is all too willing to help. Okay, I'm a third-year medical student. What was your method of studying in med school? Yeah. So you were saying that you don't memorize?
No, I tried to understand and simplify everything as much as possible. And I still did that even during my residency training when I was doing ophthalmology training in Singapore. What I tried to do, I think this is applicable for anything, not just medicine, okay? Mm-hmm. Like I try to simplify everything that I'm learning. So I break it down to the simplest idea. Then after that, somehow you'll just remember it, So for example, let's say, how do I break down something? Let's say for me, when I explain, I would explain something to myself, how I would to a patient that has no idea about this disease. So for example, with diabetic retinopathy, the way I would explain it to them is that, with diabetes, you have a lot of sugar in your blood. And when you have a lot of sugar in your blood, imagine now this sugary blood has to go through the pipes which represent your blood vessels, right? And they're really tiny. So, that's how I try to break it down to them. And initially that's how I was, when I was studying, I was breaking it down to the very, to the simplest idea, because that's the easiest way. When you understand, you will remember better. So I would say you have to try to understand and simplify it, teach your friends, because when you teach, you will tend to kind of remember more, right? So that's what I learned.
Good advice, teaching.
Yeah, teaching is very good. Understand it, break it down, then you teach somebody else, because then you'll definitely remember it.